Welcome to another edition of Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has forwarded the names of 32 ambassadorial nominees to the Senate for confirmation. There are 17 non-carrier ambassadors on the list and 15 carrier ambassadors. On the non-carrier ambassadors side, you have the names of mainly politicians, both past and present. Before now, President Tinubu had nominated non-carrier ambassadors for the United States, the United Kingdom, and France. It would be nice to hear what former ambassadors have to say about this. But also, what happened this week? The president of Guinea Bissau, Umaro Embalo, settled nicely in Senegal after handing over political power to the military, who had arrested him on Thursday. President Embalo had announced himself that there had been a coup, but there was no use of force. Former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, who'd led the West African Elders Forum election observation mission to monitor presidential and legislative elections held on Sunday, said he does not believe there had been a coup in Guinea-Bissau. He was evacuated following the military takeover. The Guinea-Bissau Electoral Commission was set to announce the winner of the presidential election just before the coup. Mr. Embalo's army chief, Hota Intaa, has assumed power as the transitional president. Joining me now on the program is a former Undersecretary, African Affairs Division at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and former ambassador to Guinea-Bissau, Ambassador Godwin Agama. He joins us from Otukpo in Benue State here in Nigeria. We also have Ambassador Lawrence Obishakin, who's currently Senior Ambassadorial Fellow at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. He was also former ambassador to the Republic of Benin. He joins us from Redemption City in Ogun State. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me on Diplomatic Channel today.
Thank you, Amarachi, for inviting me again.
Thank you too for the honor.
Indeed.
Thank you for the honor given to us to appear here tonight.
Ambassador Agama, it is your first time on Diplomatic Channel. So let's just begin with, this list that has finally come out, the ambassadorial nominees. And we've been waiting for it for a little more than 2 years now, I should say. And the president has been, prodded in various fora and in various conversations why we should have ambassadors, even though after he recalled the others who were holding previous positions when he became president. He recalled all of them, and since then we have had no sitting ambassadors in our foreign missions abroad. We have 17 non-carrier ambassadors, and we have 15 carrier ambassadors. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Ambassador Bishaking, would you like to start us off?
Thank you very much, Amarachi, once again. It's very topical. That's the most recent, news breaking in Nigeria. That after about 2 years, our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been inspired to finally, use the opportunity that prerogative that the Constitution has given him to nominate or appoint ambassadors to represent Nigeria. We are happy at it, but we just pray and hope that Nigeria will not waste this opportunity. I've said on this platform that we are very qualified, career diplomats who are serving, and we have more too. If they need people outside, they should outside their career after they have used those who are qualified to be ambassador, because to be ambassador is not a child's play. You are like president abroad, so they should use people, those who have the experience. It is the international community is a cloak and dagger affair. It's a dangerous game there. We go to defend the interests of our country, to defend also Africa, to defend, the world economic just order, just like the relevant part of our constitution says, which is chapter 2, and Section 19 on our foreign policy objectives. So we will pray that President Tinubu will be guided to use those who should do it. We know anybody can cut people up in the surgery room, but not a carpenter. You need a surgeon to do it. Otherwise, damage will be done. Where we are now, Nigeria needs people who are skilled in projecting our image that has been ruffled, to say the least, and also in knowing what to do. As we said before this, our colleague said, Ambassador Gama, who is an erudite colleague, we cannot afford to make mistakes anymore. And Mr. President be guided. The people, his nominees, have to be screened. And also, and I hope they are listening, you cannot announce which country they are going until the country approves and they give what they call agreement. This error was made during the time of Shagari, and Nigeria suffered for it because most European countries rejected. They said you cannot give them a fair accompli. Remember, this is their game. We learned diplomacy from them by Treaty of Westphalia, 1648. So we must, even when Mr. President nominates and their nominees, the Senate clears them, okay, they are designate, they still remain designate until the country, at times, mine took about 3 months. We have to go into it, yes, because there's reciprocity. Anyway, we won't go into details. If they consult us, we tell them.
All right.
Thank you.
Ambassador, thank you so much. Ambassador Gama, I'm sure that you are getting ready to answer this question, but I wanted us to look at the list of non-career ambassadors, and I see a lot of political figures, on this list. I'm wondering if you also have observed that there are a lot of. It does seem like the president trying to settle his political cronies, with their names being on this list. What do you think?
Thank you very much for your question. It's a very topical question, as my colleague said. It's a development that is taking the attention of domestic commentators since this week. We commend the president for his action for making the appointment in nominations now. The nominations were overdue. We thought it could have come much earlier, but he understands best why he kept it to this time. That he has come out at all, we commend his action. I think that what we need to underscore here is that diplomacy is a specialized service. It's not just like domestic public administration, where you have little training. Even that requires some training, but diplomacy requires complex training, because ambassador could utter something at his mission, and it could derail the relationship between the country he's accredited to and his own country that sent him. So we have all this protocol of doing things, the way you speak, the way you couch your language. Even when you are angry with your host, you are not happy, you convey a message in a way that is pleasant. I see a lot of names, recognizable names in that list. Former governors, former ministers, very brilliant people, very experienced people in politics. Politics generally is not diplomacy. So I think that maybe in a subsequent list, if they are taking a note of this, they could draw more on the career people who are still active and serving, or if there's a death of that, they could go back to people that are in the reserve. Because just like you have in the military, generals on reserve, you also have ambassadors on the reserve who are still capable, dynamic, and up and doing, and to serve Nigeria very well. So that's all I have to say. But we commend him for the nomination.
A good move.
Yeah,
That's
and this list of 32 is in addition to 3 names he had sent previously to the National Assembly to have approved. You have Lieutenant Colonel Lateef Kayode. He said he would be ambassador to the United States. Ambassador Amin Mohamed Dalhatu for the United Kingdom, and Ambassador Ayodele Oke for France. It is a crucial time for Nigeria, isn't it? And I, just wondering your Ambassador Vishaki, you want to say something?
Yeah, had already said practically what I needed to say about it. That diplomacy is a skill, and like all skills, it takes time. It's not the same year you train a carpenter that you also spend in training a surgeon. The higher, the more delicate the duty is, the job, the work is, the longer and more intricate the training should take. You see, like they are mentioning this, unless they've already got the agreement. The procedures, the process is very clear. And Nigeria is not just a baby in diplomacy. When Mr. President, we thank him, is his prerogative, he can choose anybody to be his ambassador. But then he must be guided by national interest, guided by federal character, guided by competence and skill. As my colleague said, there are career people that have been trained and they're there waiting. 28, 29. We became ambassador at the age of 30 years. Of course, quota is part of it. Some people became ambassador at 15, 16 years of service. That's long ago. But now what we're saying is that once he's nominated, they have to be cleared by the Senate, which is constitutional, and also, only about 5, careers need Senate clearance. Like that of ministers, like that of head of service, like ambassadors. Now, they also need clearance from the country of accreditation. You can't say this man is going to this place without the accreditation, without the agreement, we call it, which is agreement of the country, consent, written. They must seek it. And if they don't seek it, they announce them in their names for a country, it might create problem. It has created problem before. We were alive and well. When during the time of President Shehu Shagari, he announced and said, this man will be going to this place, and Europe rejected him. Said, no, you cannot give us a fair complete. We must get agreement first. That's how it's done. I just pray and I believe Mr. President is being advised. We have our younger colleagues there, younger, but they're there. They have the experience. This is just the kind of caution I'd like to draw the attention of the government to, Otherwise,
Gama, you already
we are
know,
very
you already
happy.
know. Sorry, Ambassador Gama, you already know, what the country is currently going through. Security challenges, the threat by the United States, initially by the U.S. President Donald Trump to send military, to engage military action here in Nigeria to go over those terrorists, he says, attacking Christians in the north of Nigeria. What do you make about Nigeria sending a retired colonel to an ambassadorial position in the U.S.? I would think that this would be a more delicate position that much thought would have had to go into in presenting an ambassador who probably is ready, already has enough experience as well as the ability to be able to carry on conversations behind the scenes with the U.S. government, ongoing conversations, I might add, because I know the Nigerian government is still engaging with the U.S. government, regarding help with its security challenges. What do you make of this?
Well, as my colleague, Ambassador Bishakin said, we actually don't know where any of these people are going to. But for conversation purposes, I know Ambassador K very well, former DG of NIA. I know also Ambassador Ray Kritak-Cornell, who was DG DSS. I've met him before, I've had conversations with him, and I can speak for their brilliance and competence. They are like technocrats. They are not the typical political people that politicians that we complain about. And wherever they go, I think for K, he has been a diplomat all his life, served in the Commonwealth. I took over his desk in London as political affairs head of a mission in London, HPA, head political affairs department, when he would cross over to the Commonwealth. And we interacted while I was in London before I was appointed as ambassador. So I know him very well, very competent, very sharp, brilliant fellow. And we have the two of them, plus myself and Bishop Akin, I think we age bracket, the 56, 57 generation. That's when we were born. So I can't speak ill of any of them. I think they're competent. Whether Are goes to London or France or UK, I mean US, he will be competent there because he has a security, he has intelligence background. And what we need are people who can operate like that because of the challenges we have. So not everything goes through the front channel. We need back channel to do things. So I think it's if eventually are confirmed and the countries that propose to serve receives them, grants agreement for them, I think it will be a good appointment. But as I said, my colleague said, you don't announce these deployments until the country you propose to send them to accepts. You make a demand privately that, well, for instance, if the three you mentioned, even if they are all cleared, I want to send them to either UK, US, or France, or anywhere, you write through the Minister of Foreign Affairs to their embassy in Abuja that Nigeria proposes to send this gentleman whose CV is attached to your country as his next ambassador. Will you accept him? And they come back after some time and said, yes, we accept. That means the agreement to accredit him has been granted. And that you cannot proceed to print in letters and all that processing to go and resume his mission there.
I'm going to stay with you, Ambassador Agama, because the main topic today, of course, is the coup or the palace coup, like I imagine it, in Guinea-Bissau. President Omaro Embalo is now in Senegal. He peacefully went there after he was arrested by the army chief in the presidential palace. He made the announcement himself that there had been what he called a coup. It almost seemed like he was expecting this to happen in Guinea-Bissau. I mean, he had also had a number of, close shaves with his government being toppled by a coup. I think 2 or 3 instances he's had since he became president. What do you make of what happened on Thursday?
Well, as the press has it, even our former president said it, he couldn't describe it as a coup. And from what we have read so far and heard in the media, that doesn't fall into the classical definition of a coup. If a coup has happened, he'll be under arrest. And if he's under arrest, he couldn't be talking to the press, locally or internationally. And if a coup has happened, it can be released overnight, 2 days after, or 48 hours, and be asked to go to another country. So it's like an arranged coup, or it's a simulated coup. It's not properly a coup, as we know definitions of it. But I think what we can read into it is that he saw the defeat coming because the results had already been compiled and collated. It remained to be announced. And it was at that point that he now, both of them were claiming victory already, himself and Da Costa, who actually won, because the results are already being printed, not officially though, but he was one that was elected. And I think Mbalo didn't want to concede or didn't want to hand over to him, perhaps because of what he has done while he was in power. And so he organized this non-coup to deny this man the warm victory that he has got. But I think that is not the end of it, because I hear ECOWAS heads might be going there this week, and things will change rapidly from what we understand. But it wasn't a coup. I was there for 4 years. I saw a number of coup attempts and a successful coup, and that didn't fall into that category at all. But Guinea-Bissau, since its independence in 73 or 74, or 24th September 74, has had a 1974. Yes. They actually declared their independence in 73, but the rest of the world didn't recognize them until the next year of 74. They have never had a stable government. They've had one crisis to another, and there are reasons for this. If you want me to go into the reasons, I can give you some of them, but I don't know if you want to rephrase your question again.
Well, that would probably help us understand, why there was a coup last week, or a change of government, because you've explained we really can't describe this as a coup. So that would probably explain why there was a change of government, why the president willingly handed over power to the military.
Okay. Now, Guinea-Bissau was a Portuguese colony. And for those of us who have some West African history, Portuguese colonies were not treated like the other colonies of the UK or France, which were in West Africa mainly. Those were the men that had their colonies here. Portugal didn't prepare their colonies for independence. in a way that, for instance, in Nigeria, the UK or Britain did, with so many conferences. They had administration that guided the people from regions to the federal, and they had a number of conferences in England for constitutional things, arrangement to be done. So that was what happened in Nigeria. In Guinea Bissau, they never had that opportunity. They had a war of independence beginning in 1963. For almost 11 years, they fought in the bush until the war defeated Amika Cabra. Yes, the fight was led by Amika Cabra. Portuguese. Pardon?
Paix. The party.
PAIGC. They founded the party in 1956. I didn't want to go to other history. That's why I'm trying to shorten it. The party for African Party for the Independence of Guinea Bissau and Cape Verde. PAIGC and Cape Verde. Founded in 1956. But by 1959, they embarked on a strike to force Portugal to grant them rights and independence. And the Portuguese colonial powers responded with a lot of brutality, which now drove them into the bush, and they took up arms with training in the Soviet Union, Cuba, and other places, and offered them training and weapons. So they started that bush war and fought till 1973, when they defeated most of the Portuguese forces. And then there was Franco in Portugal that also fell out of power. So they had to concede independence to them. But the point I'm making is that they were not prepared for independence. The soldiers themselves have been the problem in Guinea-Bissau. But these are not soldiers that were formally trained, as you have in Ghana from the colonial times, or Nigeria, where you have training in England. Army was being formed to take over from a post-colonial country. That didn't happen.
So it is clear that democracy is still a challenge, across Africa, and different countries giving their interpretations to this is still. It still seems nascent here in Africa, and it makes me really wonder, if Africa should be considering its own political system that works, one where the leaders are held accountable, one where the people really do have the power. That's what democracy is supposed to portray, right? But that's not what is happening in Africa. You only have power concentrated in the hands of a few, and they control the economy, they also control the politics, and the gap between the rich and the poor is still very wide.
The Chinese claim they are practicing democracy. But we know that's different from the Western democracy that we practice in Nigeria here. The point they are making now had come up in the 60s when the African leaders at the time felt multi-party was not necessary. It was destructive. It needed one party so you can focus on all that and all that. It was abused, became one party forever. So, but I don't think African scholars have been able to come up with anything better than what the colonial people prepared us for. We can't go back to our traditional institutions of Opa, emirs, chiefs, or chair, or and all that. That probably won't work. Well, perhaps. Maybe you can try that. But try that in this century. Is it monarchy that they're going to adopt?
Speak to that.
So I don't know, but I think about that myself, but I don't think it's going to work.
Yes, I want to thank my colleague, but I want to differ a little bit from him. In the past, in the Western region, there used to be House of Chiefs. Those who gave us democracy in London, in England, UK, there's House of Lords. Well, these are natural leaders of the people, which you find a way of drafting them in, because they are permanent leaders of his people. The Sultan of Sokoto, the Oni of Ife, the Oba of Benin, the Obi of Onitsha, the Etsunupe, the Tortiv, the Gala, Oche. We need to, as you say, I agree with you, we need to go have our own homegrown democracy. And you have to be moderate. For instance, if you say multi-party system. There was a time, I think, that it was being implemented that any party that has not won any seat should be delisted. And I think there was an attempt to do that. Because to me, personally, I think we have too many political parties. Some come and chop party, some is just the father, the mother, and the children. There should be a way of, let's look at in England. If you are not in the Tory, you are in Labour. If you are not Republican, you are Democrat in the US. Plus one or two that I never heard of.
Independent.
I think we have made democracy too expensive by making it an open-ended business for anybody to register any party. Yeah? Chop and chop, come and chop, anything party. We really need to be serious. It's expensive if you want to run the American system, but run it as it rule in America. America doesn't have 1,000 parties, 500 parties, So that's just my own view.
I appreciate the zeal and the passion with which you're both attacking this subject. Thank you so much. Ambassador Godwin Agama, former Undersecretary, African Affairs Division at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and former ambassador to Guinea-Bissau, as well as Ambassador Lawrence Obishaking, Senior Ambassadorial Fellow at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies and former Ambassador to the Republic of Benin. Gentlemen, your opinions, your analysis, your thoughts, very invaluable on the program. We appreciate you making time to be with us on Diplomatic Channel.
Thank you very much, Amarachi, for inviting me. Grateful.
I thank you for inviting me. I'm happy that I'm able to join you today by Zoom. I find your invitation which I couldn't honor. It's a privilege to be with you today. Thank you so much.
This is where we end the program this week. Remember, your thoughts and comments are always welcome on the program. Just keep them respectful. I'm Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.